What's going on, everybody? Kaleepus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G. Now, as always, before we go any further, I do want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, and if you want to learn more about either of these phones individually, I will be linking to several other videos about them in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, we're getting a 6.6-inch 120Hz PLS LCD display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 400, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and an 82.5% screen-to-body ratio. With the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, we're getting a 6.7-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED Plus display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 392, and a 20:9 aspect ratio as well. So in general, both phones have really good displays, but I would say with the Super AMOLED Plus display versus a PLS LCD, the A73 5G does have quite an advantage here. This display technology is going to make the image quality a little bit better, colors are going to be a little bit more vibrant, and with the A73 5G, the brightness and viewing angles are also going to be a bit better. So if you're outside in the sun, for example, or really in any brighter area in general, the A73 5G is going to be quite a bit easier to see. And at 6.7 inches versus 6.6, well, it's not a huge difference. The A73 5G is also a little bit larger. So if you're doing a lot of content consumption and you're really just going to be on your phone a lot doing stuff like watching videos, playing games, looking at photos, or even stuff like reading or using social media, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G will be a better choice. But in general, the A23 5G is still not bad at all, and you're really not going to go wrong with this phone either. Now for storage, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G is getting 64GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is getting 128GB with microSD card expansion as well. Now keep in mind, the international version of the A23 5G does have 128GB too, and being that the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G in and of itself is an international phone, and it's not officially launched in the US, that's probably a more fair comparison. So again, keep in mind, although this version of the A23 5G and any version you get through a carrier in the US does have 64GB, the international version has 128. Now for security features, both phones have Face Unlock, and they both have fingerprint scanners as well. With the A23 5G, the fingerprint scanner is right here on the power key, and with the A73 5G, we have an in-display fingerprint scanner. But starting with the A23 5G, let's go ahead and give them a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the A73 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see there, both fingerprint scanners were real fast and responsive. And again, remember, both phones do have Face Unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now for the camera setups, with the A23 5G, we got an 8MP front-facing camera. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 50MP main camera, a 5MP ultra-wide camera, a 2MP macro camera, and a 2MP depth sensing camera. With the A73 5G, we got a 32MP front-facing camera. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 108MP main camera, a 12MP ultra-wide camera, a 5MP macro camera, and a 5MP depth sensing camera. So as far as the camera features go, both phones have pretty much everything, including an ultra-wide camera and a macro camera. So if you're taking a lot of pictures and you want a wider variety of features, then you're not going to go wrong with either phone. That being said though, there is a pretty big difference in quality, with the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G being not quite flagship level, but definitely as close as you can really get with a mid-range phone. Whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, while the photo quality is definitely not bad by any means, it's still definitely not going to be nearly as good as the A73 5G. In addition to this, when it comes to video, the A23 5G has a max recording quality of 1080p in both the rear and front cameras, whereas the A73 5G can record in 4K in both the rear and front. So in general, while if you're just taking a few photos here and there, maybe to share on social media for example, you're really not going to go wrong with either phone because again, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G for what it is, does take really good photos. If you want the best quality you can get between the two, maybe you're doing a lot of photography and you want a really good quality camera, but you still don't want to spend a ton of money on a flagship phone, then in that case, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is going to be a better choice, especially considering again, this phone can record 4K videos, whereas the A23 5G can't. Now as far as RAM and processor go, with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, we're getting 4GB of RAM with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G processor. With the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, we're getting 8GB of RAM with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 778 5G processor. In general, as far as performance goes, while on one hand, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G is really fast for what it is, and for basic activities like web browsing, social media, streaming content like videos and music and stuff like that, this phone will absolutely get the job done. For higher higher performance activities like mobile gaming, for example, or those of you who are just going to be on your phone a lot, you will get a significantly better experience with the A73 5G. In fact, this phone is actually almost comparable to something like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, which is an entry-level flagship phone. Whereas again, with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, while this phone is not slow by any means, it still is very much a mid-range phone. So overall, if you're more of a heavy user and you're really going to be on your phone a lot, then the A73 5G is probably going to be a better choice. But if you're really just doing more basic activities, then again, I do think the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G is going to be plenty fast enough for you. Now, I did run Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on both of these phones, and here are the scores I got. So again, as you can see from this test, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is quite a bit faster. But again, at the same time, the A23 5G is definitely not a slow phone either. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and comparing your results to these, and that's going to give you an idea of which phone is a better upgrade for you. You might find that while of course the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is the faster phone of the two, the A23 5G might be a good enough upgrade for you already. Now when it comes to the battery, these phones are actually exactly the same. Both phones have 5000 mAh batteries that support 25-watt fast charging. So if you want a phone with a really good battery and that's really a priority for you, you're not going to go wrong with either of them. With a 5000 mAh battery, you can expect to get great battery life and longevity. So if you're not always around a charger and you need a phone that's really going to last all day, then again, either of these phones will be a great choice. And with 25-watt fast charging, the charging speeds we're getting here are really good as well. But that being said, keep in mind, neither phone has wireless charging. So if that's a feature you really want, you are going to have to step up to something like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. But on the bright side, both phones do have NFC. So if you like to make contactless mobile payments using tap and pay, you'll be happy to know you can do that with either phone. And one more thing I do want to point out here is that with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, we are getting a headphone jack, whereas we're not with the A73 5G. So if you do want a phone with a headphone jack, definitely keep this in mind. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? In general, I would say it's pretty clear that the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is a significantly better device. But that being said, whether or not it's actually worth it is a completely different question. On one hand, this phone does have a significantly better display, much better performance, more storage if you're considering the US version of the A23 5G at least, a better camera, and the ability to record 4K videos. But that being said, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G is really not a slow phone either. And again, keep in mind, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is not officially launched in the US. So if you are in the US and you want to get this phone, you're going to have to get it factory unlocked for basically full price. Whereas with the A23 5G, as of the recording of this video, US carriers are offering really good deals for this phone. So honestly, at the end of the day, if you just need a phone for more basic activities, you're not recording 4K videos, and you're not really going to be on your phone all day every day, I feel like in that case, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G is going to be plenty good enough for you. But if you do want something quite a bit higher end, then again, if you are in the US, instead of buying the A73 5G at full price, I would personally just go for something like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, which you can get for a pretty similar price to this phone, but it has even more features and better performance. But at the end of the day, despite their differences, I do think both phones are really good mid-range devices that provide quite a bit of value for the money. But this concludes my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G. Again, if you want to learn more about either of these phones individually, I will be linking to several other videos about them in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalip's Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.